Nobody betrays the bloodline and goes free. The tribal chief made a stunning return tonight, helping Solo Sikoa savage Jacob Fatu for his Money in the Bank betrayal, and the WWE Universe is still reeling. After weeks of chaos, Roman Reigns is back to restore the bloodline's dominance, and he's doing it with fire, fury, and a Samoan Spike through the steel steps. Jacob Fatu tried to ambush Solo, but got outplayed by Roman's surprise return. Roman and Solo double-teamed Fatu in a vicious beatdown. Roman speared Jacob through the barricade, then delivered a chilling message: "Nobody betrays this family." He pointed to the WrestleMania sign: "This isn't over, it's just beginning." With Jey Uso still recovering, and Jimmy Uso missing, fans are asking, will Jey accept Roman's emotional offer and return to the family? Is Fatu finished? Or will he rise for revenge? What is Paul Heyman planning after being caught off guard again? And most importantly, did Seth Rollins just witness the rebirth of the most dangerous force in WWE? Those 5 words hit like a thunderclap, echoing through the stunned silence of the arena and the millions watching at home. Roman Reigns didn't just return, he erupted back into the WWE Universe with the precision of a predator and the fury of a man reclaiming his throne. His voice was calm, deadly. His eyes didn't blink. The bloodline saga, thought to be spiraling into chaos, was just doused in gasoline and lit ablaze. And if you're asking, what just happened to Jacob Fatu? You're not alone. Because what we witnessed wasn't just a return. It was a declaration. A statement of war. A chess move 20 steps ahead. And possibly, the rebirth of the most dangerous alliance WWE has ever seen. A normal night turned historic. July's Friday Night SmackDown was expected to be chaos. Jacob Fatu had made that clear since his shocking MITB cash-in ambush on Solo Sikoa. Fans tuned in expecting retaliation, tension, maybe a family confrontation. But no one expected this. The lights dimmed mid-segment. The crowd stirred. No entrance music. Just the Titantron flickering with the tribal red sigil. Then, boom. Roman Reigns appeared out of the darkness like a god returning from exile. Hoodie up. No pyro. No fanfare. Just presence. The kind that freezes time. He didn't say a word. Not yet. He didn't run. He walked, with slow, surgical intent. Straight toward the ring. Toward Solo. Toward Fatu. The camera cut to Paul Heyman. Pale. Mouth open. Blinking like a man who just saw a ghost. Jacob Fatu's fatal miscalculation. It was supposed to be Jacob Fatu's night. After weeks of building momentum and dismantling opponents, he walked in full of confidence. Solo had been isolated. Roman was MIA. The bloodline was bleeding out. And Fatu thought he could claim the throne by force. But in trying to be the lion, he forgot whose jungle he was in. As Fatu squared off with Solo, hard punches flying, bodies colliding, he didn't even see it coming. Roman slid in behind him like a phantom. Spear. Devastating. Crowd erupts. Solo looked stunned for half a second, then smiled. The two didn't hesitate. What followed wasn't a scuffle. It was an execution. Fatu was ragdolled, double-teamed, spiked onto steel. A Samoan Spike to the throat. A spear through the barricade. And Roman, standing over his fallen cousin, uttered the line that will haunt WWE's timeline for years: "Nobody betrays this family." He then turned. Looked up. And pointed directly at the WrestleMania sign. The silence in the arena wasn't because fans were quiet, it was because they couldn't breathe. The tribal chief returns with fire. This wasn't the Roman Reigns we last saw. Not the aloof, slow-talking monarch overseeing his empire from a distance. This was a different Reigns. Leaner, faster, meaner. A man who's been watching everything and preparing to strike. Gone was the smug grin. Gone were the long promos and mafia family metaphors. What showed up was pure alpha energy, raw, unfiltered dominance. And he didn't come back to shake hands or negotiate peace. He came to correct the hierarchy. This Roman Reigns wasn't protecting the bloodline. He was reclaiming it. Solo Sikoa's silent approval in the seconds after the beatdown. Fans expected tension between Solo and Roman. After all, Solo had taken the reins in Roman's absence. He had declared himself the enforcer, made moves without permission, and even seemed to be creating his own faction. But when Roman stood beside him, blood on his hands, Solo didn't back away. He nodded. There was no embrace. No tribal acknowledgement. But that moment, 1 second of eye contact, spoke louder than any hug or promo could. Solo had waited. Maybe even doubted. But now, with Roman back, it was clear, the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Paul Heyman, broken and beaten by events, and then there was Paul Heyman. The man who once orchestrated every bloodline move was now out of rhythm. He didn't know Roman was returning. That much was clear. His expression shifted from horror to awe to confusion as he stood between two monsters, Solo and Roman. Unsure where his loyalty should lie. For the first time in years, Heyman looked powerless. Not because he lacked knowledge, but because everything had changed without him. The manipulator was now just a witness. And that makes Roman more dangerous than ever. The WWE Universe reacts in real time within minutes. Twitter, or X, was trending worldwide with #TribalChiefReturns. #Solo and Roman. #Fatu betrayed. #Bloodline back. Clips of the spear through the barricade hit 2 million views in under an hour. Wrestling analysts called it the moment that reset the entire WWE chessboard. Fan accounts speculated that this was just phase 1 of Roman's new plan, and WrestleMania was his real endgame. The memes? Brutal. Savage. Instant classics. One particularly viral tweet read, "Jacob Fatu tried to play Uno with sharks. Roman drew 4 and fed him to the table." What this means going forward. This wasn't just a return. This was a power play. And it has major implications. Where does Solo now stand? He looked fully aligned with Roman, but how long can two alphas coexist? Is Jacob Fatu out permanently, or will he come back stronger? What does this mean for Jey Uso, still recovering in silence? Will he pick a side, or come back to end the war once and for all? Where's Jimmy Uso? Has he picked a side, or gone underground to prepare a surprise of his own? And Seth Rollins, who watched this unfold with a smirk from backstage, is he the next target? Or the final boss? Roman didn't come back to reclaim titles. He came back to rewrite the order of power. And that's much more dangerous. The camera faded out on Roman pointing to the WrestleMania sign. Not in hope. Not in hype. In warning. This isn't about matches. This is about legacy. Blood has been spilled. Trust has been shattered. Family bonds have broken, twisted, reformed. Now? The bloodline is under new management. And Roman Reigns is done playing games. The betrayal didn't begin with a contract. It didn't start with a chair shot, or a surprise entrance. It started long before Money in the Bank. Before Solo Sikoa rose through the ranks. Before Jacob Fatu stepped foot in WWE. This betrayal began with ambition, blood, and a question no one dared to ask out loud: what happens when family wants the same crown? The bloodline story has always been about power and survival. It's been about loyalty being tested and family being stretched to its breaking point. When Roman Reigns declared himself the head of the table, he made it clear, no one eats unless he says so. That wasn't a metaphor. It was a mission statement. For years, the family revolved around Roman. Jey Uso bled for him. Jimmy rebelled, then followed. Paul Heyman became the brain. Solo was the blade. But even blades can cut the hand that wields them. After WrestleMania, Roman disappeared. No public explanation. No tweet. No video message. Just silence. The throne was empty, but the table was still set. The wolves began to circle. Solo Sikoa saw an opening. He wasn't ready for the crown, but he was ready for something. Respect. Recognition. A voice. And he didn't wait for permission. He started moving pieces. Quietly. Systematically. And somewhere in that storm, Jacob Fatu arrived. Jacob Fatu's signing was a seismic shift. For hardcore fans who knew his work in MLW and on the indie circuit, the reaction was immediate: chaos was coming. Fatu wasn't a polished performer looking to play the family game. He was a street brawler with championship pedigree and a chip on his shoulder the size of the island of relevancy itself. And more importantly, he wasn't loyal to Roman. He was loyal to power. Fatu's arrival was shrouded in mystery. No promos. No handshakes. Just carnage. Week after week, he tore through opponents like they owed him money. He didn't speak much, but when he did, it was clear, he wasn't here to assist. He was here to take over. Solo saw an ally in Fatu. Or so it seemed. He let Fatu fight his battles. He let the beast off the leash. Fatu destroyed everything in his path, and Solo let him. But that decision had a cost. Money in the Bank 2025 was where it all changed. The night started with high drama. Championships on the line. Surprise entrance. Teasers for returns. But no one expected Jacob Fatu to make his move. He didn't even wait for the main event. During Solo's match, a brutal one-on-one with Kevin Owens, Fatu emerged from the crowd. Solo was on the edge of victory. He'd just nailed Owens with a Samoan Spike, the ref's hand was coming down for the 3 count, and boom. Fatu blindsided him with a chair to the spine. The arena exploded. Fans didn't know how to react. Some cheered, thinking it was the start of a new alliance. Some booed, unsure of what they were witnessing. But then came the worst part: Fatu cashed in. That's right. Jacob Fatu wasn't just a hired gun. He had earned a Money in the Bank contract weeks prior in a surprise qualifying match that flew under the radar. Most assumed he'd save it for a world title run. Instead, he cashed in on Solo, not for gold, but for a statement. He didn't pin Solo. He beat him. Humiliated him. Slammed him through the announce table. Then placed one foot on his chest for the 3 count. It wasn't about titles. It was about dominance. The fallout was immediate. Solo was pulled from programming for a week. Not because he was injured, though he was, but because he was humiliated. In front of the world. By someone he trusted. Someone he allowed into the inner circle. Fatu, meanwhile, began walking with a new swagger. He showed up the next week with no apology. No justification. Just violence. He said only one thing in his backstage interview: I don't take orders. I take over. The message was clear: Jacob Fatu wasn't the future of the bloodline. He was building his own. And fans loved it. Online communities erupted with excitement. Fatu memes flooded timelines. Wrecked Solo trended for 2 days straight. Some fans began calling Fatu the new tribal beast. The new alpha. The next Reigns. But not everyone celebrated. Paul Heyman looked rattled. He cut a cryptic promo the next night on SmackDown, saying, "This family has seen betrayal before, but this time, the knife went deeper." He didn't name Fatu. He didn't protect Solo either. He just paced backstage, visibly unraveling. And then came the whispers. Roman is watching. Roman is coming back. The tension grew. Each week, Solo looked more unstable. He stopped speaking. He destroyed lower card talent in seconds. One week, he attacked 3 referees. The week after, he interrupted an interview segment and slammed a camera crew member into a road case. This wasn't strategy. It was rage. Commentators started floating the idea that Solo had lost control. But behind the scenes, the story was more sinister. Solo wasn't losing control, he was preparing for revenge. Then came the teaser. 2 weeks before Roman returned, WWE dropped a 30-second cryptic promo. No logos. Just a black screen, flickering fire, and a voiceover. In blood, there is strength. In betrayal, there is clarity. Fans speculated. Was it Roman? Was it Fatu doubling down? Was it someone else? The next SmackDown delivered a further tease. The show ended with Solo standing over an unconscious Fatu backstage, breathing heavy, fists bloodied. It was shot with handheld camera work, raw and unstable. No commentary. No security intervention. Just silence and the sound of Solo breathing like a monster barely containing the storm inside. But Fatu wasn't finished. The following week, Fatu arrived in the opening segment, not to fight, but to talk. For the first time, he grabbed a mic and addressed the WWE Universe directly. I didn't come here to sit at no table. I came to flip it. Bloodline? I am the line now. He dropped the mic and walked out. Solo responded that night by attacking Fatu mid-match. No music. No build-up. Just a missile of a man launching into the ring and delivering 3 straight Samoan spikes. Fatu laughed through the blood pouring from his mouth. It was chaos. Glorious, personal chaos. And it all led to the night Roman returned. Everything had been building toward this. A power vacuum. A betrayal. Solo broken, but not defeated. Fatu rising, but reckless. Paul Heyman fading. And Roman waiting in the shadows. The betrayal wasn't just Fatu turning on Solo. It was a full-circle moment for the entire Bloodline saga. It was proof that without Roman, the family didn't function, it fractured. That without the tribal chief, the kingdom collapsed under the weight of ambition and violence. But now, Roman's back. And the man who tried to be king, Jacob Fatu, was made an example. The betrayal set the stage. But the return? That's the start of the war. For more than a decade, Roman Reigns has been at the heart of WWE's most polarizing storylines. From the days of the Shield to his rise as the tribal chief, Roman has always been visible. Present. Commanding. But following his title loss at WrestleMania 40, something changed. He disappeared. No fanfare. No farewell. Just silence. To most fans, it looked like defeat. After nearly 1,300 days as champion, Roman had fallen. And then vanished. Some called it a retreat. Others called it rest. But those who truly understood the psychology of Roman Reigns knew this wasn't a man licking his wounds. It was a man recalculating. And while the WWE Universe was speculating on his whereabouts, Roman Reigns was doing what he does best, watching. From a distance. From the shadows. And always with a plan. This section is about that silence. That strategic absence. Because Roman's disappearance wasn't an escape from the game. It was the next move in it. The night Roman lost his title to Cody Rhodes, there was a moment when the camera caught something telling. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sadness. It was calm. Roman didn't flail or protest. He didn't argue with the ref or throw furniture. He lay on the mat, eyes fixed on the ceiling, unmoving. As if he already knew this day was coming. And that's what scared people the most. After the camera stopped rolling, Roman didn't stick around. He didn't show up on Raw, SmackDown, or any post-WrestleMania press. Even Paul Heyman was left scrambling to explain his absence. He's taking time to reflect, Heyman told WWE Digital. But that was only part of the truth. Roman was watching every show. Every segment. Every betrayal. He saw Solo stepping into leadership. He saw Heyman try, and fail, to hold the family together. He saw Fatu bulldoze into the scene like a wrecking ball. He didn't interfere. He didn't text, post, or promo. Because this wasn't just time off. It was the calm before the thunder. Backstage sources began to leak strange behavior from Heyman during Roman's absence. He started avoiding interviews. When asked about Roman, he'd pivot, deflect, or shut the conversation down entirely. Behind the scenes, some described Heyman as walking on eggshells. Others said he looked more lost than ever. The most telling rumor came from a locker room staffer who reportedly overheard Heyman on the phone. "I don't know what he's planning. But he's watching. He's always watching." Meanwhile, Solo began to test the boundaries. With Roman gone, he stopped consulting Heyman. He started making matches, calling shots, and stepping on toes. And for a while, it worked. He had the respect of the locker room, and the fear of everyone else. But then he brought in Fatu. And everything changed. Roman had seen family betray each other before. He had seen Jimmy turn on Jey. He had seen Jey leave him, only to return. But this? This was different. Fatu wasn't just a family member. He was an outsider to the bloodline hierarchy. He didn't kneel. He didn't bow. He attacked. Took. Dismantled. To Roman, this wasn't just disobedience. It was disrespect. That's what triggered the return. Roman Reigns is a strategist. Every move is layered. Every silence has purpose. And when he watched Fatu cash in on Solo, he wasn't shocked. He wasn't blindsided. He was evaluating. Could Solo handle it? Would he respond with leadership or revenge? Would Heyman steer the ship or sink it? The answers came quickly. Solo crumbled into anger. Heyman turned into a ghost. The family foundation Roman built was cracking under the weight of unchecked ego. And Roman knew it was time. Not for peace. But for punishment. The first internal sign of Roman's impending return came via production notes. Camera crews were reportedly told to leave open shot space at certain moments, and to make sure entrances were flexible. Veteran producers began to whisper. Something was coming. Then came the merchandise leak. 2 weeks before his return, WWE's official store accidentally uploaded a new Bloodline Reclaimed t-shirt, then deleted it within minutes. But screenshots spread like wildfire. It featured Roman's silhouette above a broken crown, with red lightning bolts around him. Fans knew. The King was returning. Roman's mindset during this period remains largely a mystery. No podcast appearances. No airport sightings. No interviews. But insiders close to him describe his mood as cold and focused. Not angry. Not bitter. Just locked in. He didn't want the old bloodline back. He wanted a better one. One that didn't need persuasion or manipulation. One that followed orders, or faced consequences. And for all Solo's power, for all Fatu's rage, Roman still held the one weapon none of them had: control. When the moment finally came, it was executed with clinical precision. No theme song. No pyro. No tribal dance. Just darkness. A flicker. A flash of red. And a slow walk to the ring like a storm forming on the horizon. Roman didn't say a word as he entered. He didn't need to. Because the moment Jacob Fatu turned his head and saw him, the entire story shifted. That's the kind of presence Roman has. He doesn't need a punchline. He is the punchline. What followed was brutal. A spear that cut Fatu in half. A Samoan Spike from Solo. A beatdown that wasn't about violence, it was about message. Roman didn't return to stop chaos. He returned to remind everyone who creates it. After the attack, as Roman stood over Fatu and pointed to the WrestleMania sign, fans screamed. Some in shock. Some in excitement. All in fear. Because this wasn't a happy reunion. It was a warning. Roman wasn't just reclaiming the family. He was rewriting the rules. This is what happens when the tribal chief watches long enough. He stops watching and starts hunting. Solo Sikoa was never meant to lead. He was meant to protect, to enforce, to destroy on command. But when Roman Reigns disappeared after WrestleMania 40, someone had to fill the vacuum, and Solo didn't hesitate. He stepped forward without asking for permission. Without a coronation. Without applause. He simply started taking airtime. Taking control. Taking blood. In the beginning, he moved quietly. He didn't cut long promos or claim the throne. But he didn't need to. His message came through his actions. He didn't argue with Heyman or fight for leadership. He made people fall. And week after week, the message was clear: the enforcer is now the one in charge. But power without legacy is fragile. And Solo Sikoa's rise was built not on loyalty, but on fury. That made it powerful. But it also made it dangerous. Before he became the heir apparent, Solo was the quiet storm of the bloodline. While Roman played mind games and Jey Uso battled with inner turmoil, Solo said nothing. He let his fists speak. He debuted with force, interfering in Roman's clash with Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle, saving the championship and forever changing the family dynamic. From there, his path was violence. He put Matt Riddle on the shelf. Ended Elias's push. Silenced Sami Zayn. He didn't care who got in his way. His job was to follow orders and enforce the will of the tribal chief. But when the chief left, the orders stopped. And that's when Solo's transformation began. Without Roman's guidance, Solo reverted to instinct. His Samoan heritage. His street upbringing. His raw, unchecked aggression. At first, Heyman tried to guide him. Tried to shape his chaos. But Solo didn't want strategy. He wanted control. And when Jacob Fatu arrived, Solo saw an opportunity, not just for backup, but for domination. At first, Solo and Fatu seemed like the perfect pairing. Both silent destroyers. Both shaped by violence. Both unshackled from Roman's long speeches and psychological manipulation. Together, they tore through the roster. Lower-tier competitors didn't stand a chance. Even mid-carders avoided their path backstage. Referees began hesitating before matches involving either man. Commentators used phrases like unhinged and unchecked. WWE security increased presence behind the scenes. For a while, it looked like Solo had successfully evolved from enforcer to leader. Not through charisma. Not through politics. But through fear. He didn't ask for trust. He demanded silence. But underneath that storm of dominance, Solo was alone. His brothers, Jey and Jimmy, were gone. Jey, after walking away from Roman, had taken time off to recover from the emotional fallout. Jimmy had vanished entirely. No updates. No statements. Just silence. Paul Heyman was still around, but visibly detached. Caught in limbo between past and future. He flinched every time Solo walked by. His face said what his mouth wouldn't: this is not what Roman wanted. And deep down, Solo knew it. No matter how much power he seized, no matter how many people he crushed, he wasn't the tribal chief. And Jacob Fatu? He wasn't an ally. He was a problem waiting to happen. Still, Solo kept Fatu close. Because when you're preparing for war, even a monster is useful, until it isn't. The betrayal at Money in the Bank broke something in Solo. When Fatu cashed in his contract, not for a title, but to embarrass Solo, it wasn't just a loss. It was a public execution. One that Solo never saw coming. He wasn't beaten because he was weak. He was beaten because he trusted. And Solo Sikoa doesn't trust lightly. The week after the betrayal, Solo didn't speak. Didn't tweet. Didn't even attack anyone. He walked to the ring in silence and destroyed a local talent in under 30 seconds, then left without music. The following week, he interrupted a backstage interview segment by driving a steel chair through a production case while screaming incoherently. Not at anyone in particular. Just at the air. That's how Solo processes betrayal. Not with words. With chaos. By week 3, Solo was spiraling. But it was controlled chaos. Intentional. He didn't want retribution. He wanted destruction. And as much as he hated what Fatu did to him, he hated what it exposed. He wasn't ready to lead. He needed Roman. But needing him and asking for him are two different things. Solo never said it out loud. He never called the tribal chief. Never issued a challenge or begged for help. But every spear, every chair shot, every unprovoked attack on WWE personnel, every outburst was a flare. A signal in the dark. Roman didn't answer right away. Because he didn't have to. He was watching. And Solo knew it. Then came the turning point, the night Solo ambushed Fatu backstage and left him gasping on the floor. It wasn't a match. It wasn't sanctioned. It was personal. Pure payback. And it was messy. No ring bell. No entrance. Just violence. Fans started to wonder if this was leading to a proper split. A showdown between Solo and Fatu on a premium live event. But that was never the real story. Because Roman had already made up his mind. When Roman returned, there were two men in the ring. Jacob Fatu, confident, unaware. And Solo Sikoa, ready, but uncertain. What happened next was unexpected. Roman attacked Fatu first. And Solo didn't stop him. He joined in. It was the clearest signal yet that Solo still bowed to the tribal chief. Not because he was weak, but because even kings need gods. And in that moment, Solo wasn't a leader anymore. He was the blade again. Sharper than ever. This new version of Solo Sikoa is different. He's not the same silent enforcer who shadowed Roman during the Bloodline's peak. He's more violent. More volatile. More ambitious. And now, more dangerous, because he's been humbled. He knows what betrayal feels like. He knows what leadership without backup looks like. And now, with Roman back beside him, not above him, Solo Sikoa is more than an enforcer. He's a soldier with scars. A warrior who understands that loyalty is earned in blood. And as long as Roman feeds the war, Solo will be the one delivering the final blow. Jacob Fatu didn't arrive in WWE like most superstars. There was no vignette. No contract signing segment. No smiling photo op with Triple H backstage. He came in swinging, unannounced, unapologetic, and utterly unbothered by the legacy he was stepping into. Because Jacob Fatu doesn't care about legacies. He smashes them. The moment he debuted, you could feel the shift. Fans who followed him in MLW already knew what was coming. This wasn't just another Samoan bruiser. This was a one-man riot with world champion DNA and zero patience for politics. He wasn't looking to be the next Roman Reigns. He wasn't looking to join the bloodline. He was looking to burn it down and build something with his own hands, and his own fists. And for a while, it worked. When Fatu debuted, it was in chaos. SmackDown was already in a transitional period. Roman was gone. Jey was recovering. Jimmy was missing. Solo Sikoa had taken control in the shadows. The environment was lawless, and Fatu stepped into that chaos like it was home. He didn't ask for a match. He didn't shake anyone's hand. He destroyed Cameron Grimes in under a minute and left without a word. The crowd barely had time to react. No music. No merch. Just violence. And it got attention. Backstage, the locker room buzzed. Who brought him in? Was this a Roman move? Was he replacing one of the Usos? Was this Heyman's doing? No one knew. But what they did know, he was not here to play supporting cast. Over the next few weeks, Fatu built momentum at a terrifying pace. He took out Ridge Holland with a headbutt that fractured a cheekbone. He destroyed Angelo Dawkins in a backstage brawl that was so violent it had to be cut from live television. And he didn't say a word. Fans started calling him the mute executioner. Every time he showed up, someone went to the hospital. It wasn't flashy. It was surgical. Purposeful. He wasn't just winning. He was sending messages. But to who? Then came the first sign of alliance. Solo Sikoa began nodding in approval. He let Fatu interfere in matches. He let him circle the ring like a shark before launching into action. And when they stood side by side, both stoic, both breathing heavy, both covered in someone else's blood, it looked like a new era of the bloodline was being formed. But the truth was darker. Solo thought he was recruiting Fatu. Fatu thought he was replacing everyone. The most telling moment came during a backstage segment where Paul Heyman tried to address Fatu directly. "I don't think you understand the structure here," Heyman began, trying to maintain composure. Fatu didn't respond. He just stepped closer. Not threateningly, just enough to make Heyman freeze. Then he grinned. That was the moment Heyman knew. This man wasn't a pawn. He was a rogue king. Everything built to the betrayal. At Money in the Bank, Solo was inches from victory. He had just spiked Kevin Owens into the mat and covered him. The ref's hand hit too. And then Fatu struck. One steel chair shot across Solo's spine changed everything. The crowd exploded, unsure whether to cheer or panic. Fatu didn't hesitate. He hit a second chair shot. Then a third. He pulled the ref out of the ring. Then, in a shocking moment, cashed in his Money in the Bank contract. Not for a title. Not for gold. For blood. For Solo. The cash-in wasn't about glory. It was about humiliation. Fatu lifted Solo's unconscious body. Hit his finishing move. Didn't even pin him with respect. He put one boot on Solo's chest and ordered the referee to count. It was the most disrespectful 3-count in recent WWE history. And the message couldn't have been clearer: I don't serve the bloodline. I destroy it. After the betrayal, Fatu didn't apologize. He walked out the next week, looked into the camera, and delivered a rare, spine-chilling promo: I don't take orders. I don't wear crowns. I burn kingdoms. That was it. No follow-up. No interview. He dropped the mic and walked out. And fans loved it. Clips went viral. Reaction videos poured in. Wrestling podcasts debated whether this was the boldest heel turn in 5 years, or the birth of a new anti-hero. Some compared him to early Stone Cold. Some called him Brock Lesnar with a sharper edge. Others said he was something new altogether, an unpredictable wild card in a world of predictable storytelling. But as powerful as the betrayal was, it exposed Fatu's one weakness: he underestimated Roman Reigns. Fatu thought he could break the bloodline by beating Solo. But Roman wasn't watching from the sidelines to observe. He was waiting to strike. The night Roman returned, Fatu was ready for Solo. He wasn't ready for him. Roman didn't even give Fatu a chance to respond. No trash talk. No warning. Just a spear that folded him in half and a Samoan Spike that nearly crushed his windpipe. The beatdown was quick. Violent. Controlled. Exactly the kind of execution Fatu had built his reputation on. Only now, he was on the receiving end. As Solo and Roman stood over his body, Roman looked into the camera and said one thing: nobody betrays this family. And just like that, Fatu went from conqueror to cautionary tale. But here's the truth about Jacob Fatu: he doesn't stay down. He's not a one-shot heel. He's a grinder. A survivor. A man who's been fighting since before WWE knew his name. And if you think that beatdown marked the end of Fatu's story, you're not paying attention. Because a man like Jacob Fatu doesn't quit after one war. He reloads. Right now, Jacob Fatu is off the grid. No social media. No interviews. No backstage sightings. Some say he's injured. Some say he's regrouping. But the most dangerous theories suggest he's waiting. Not to rejoin the bloodline, but to end it. The bloodline has been built on family. But Jacob Fatu represents something far more primal, survival. And when he returns, it won't be to kneel. It will be to finish what he started. It started with a feeling. Not an announcement. Not a teaser. Just an eerie shift in the air midway through Friday Night SmackDown. The lights flickered once, barely noticeable. The camera cut briefly to Paul Heyman backstage, nervously pacing, his phone in hand but unanswered. The arena's energy, already intense following a hard-fought tag team match, grew restless. It was like the WWE Universe knew something was about to break. But no one expected what came next. The return of Roman Reigns wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. It was surgical, a calculated ambush so ruthless that it redefined the bloodline's direction in under 10 minutes. And at the center of it all was the brutal dismantling of Jacob Fatu. This wasn't a match. This was a hit. Earlier that night, WWE's commentary team had teased a major announcement regarding the bloodline, but no details were given. The main event was booked as Solo Sikoa vs. Jacob Fatu, a revenge match weeks in the making. It was never meant to be clean. It was a street fight sanctioned in name only. No rules. No tags. Just two monsters with blood in their eyes and something to prove. The entrances told the story before the match even began. Jacob Fatu came out first, walking through the smoke with a wild look in his eye. He didn't pose. He didn't acknowledge the crowd. He stalked the ring like a man walking into a war zone, not a performance. Behind him, the Titantron played glitchy, chaotic flashes of his previous attacks. His music was loud, primal, pounding. The fans booed, some out of hatred, some out of respect. But they felt him. Then came Solo. No pyro. No theatrics. Just him, hoodie up, dragging a steel chair down the ramp. His pace was slow. Deliberate. His face was unreadable. If Fatu looked like a wild dog, Solo looked like a loaded weapon with the safety off. No commentary. Just crowd noise. The arena knew this wasn't a segment. It was an execution waiting to happen. From the opening bell, it was chaos. Solo charged first, launching his shoulder into Fatu's ribs and driving him into the corner. The first minute was nothing but fists. No grappling. No holds. Just hammering shots to the head, body, back. Each man tried to overpower the other, neither giving ground. Fatu responded with a brutal running lariat that sent Solo flipping over the ropes. He followed up by diving through the middle rope and spearing Solo into the barricade. The front row erupted. Security backed up. This wasn't for kids. Back inside the ring, Fatu went for a steel chair. He cracked it across Solo's spine twice. The sound echoed. Solo dropped to one knee. But not for long. He caught the third swing, yanked the chair from Fatu's hands, and headbutted him so hard that Fatu fell flat. That's when the camera panned to the stage. And everything stopped. The lights didn't go out completely. Just dimmed. The arena didn't even register what was happening until the Titantron lit up, not with Roman's face, but with a tribal symbol burning in red and black. No music played. Then a single spotlight hit the ramp. And Roman Reigns walked out. No entrance music. No special effects. No expression. He just walked, slow, poised, dangerous. The audience erupted in disbelief. People jumped to their feet. Some screamed. Some gasped. Paul Heyman, shown backstage watching a monitor, dropped his phone. Roman didn't rush. He took his time walking down the ramp, eyes locked on the ring. He never blinked. Jacob Fatu didn't see him. Solo did. And he smiled. Roman slid into the ring. Fatu had just risen to his feet, dazed but defiant. He turned around, and got speared in half. It wasn't a typical spear. It wasn't theatrical. It was violent. It had no setup, no yell. Just sudden, sharp, deadly impact. Fatu flipped in midair and crashed to the mat. Solo didn't hesitate. As Fatu rolled over, gasping, Solo lined him up and delivered a vicious Samoan Spike straight to the throat. Fatu convulsed. He tried to stand. Couldn't. Roman stood over him. Still no words. Then the real punishment began. Roman and Solo dragged Fatu outside the ring. Threw him into the steel steps. Slammed him against the barricade. Roman barked instructions, short, clipped commands. Again. Lift him. Move. They set the steel steps upright, turned sideways like a ramp. Solo held Fatu by the neck. Roman backed up. Then ran. Another spear, this time, through the steel steps. Fatu's body folded over the edge. The crowd exploded in a mix of horror and awe. Chants of "Holy SH*T" broke out and were quickly censored on TV. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Camera zoomed in on Fatu's face. Blood from the mouth. Eyes rolling. And finally, Roman spoke. Nobody betrays this family. He didn't yell it. He whispered it. And somehow, that made it worse. Back in the ring, Solo stood tall. Roman walked in, looked at him, and for a second the arena held its breath. Would Roman acknowledge him? Would he punish him too? Roman extended his hand. Not for a handshake, but for the spike. Solo handed him the used cloth. Roman wiped his hands, dropped it, and pointed upward. The WrestleMania sign. Message delivered. Cameras cut backstage. Paul Heyman was frozen. Speechless. Caught between relief and terror. No words came out. Just that haunted look. Like a man who'd been praying for salvation, but saw judgment instead. Back at ringside, medical staff tended to Jacob Fatu. He refused a stretcher. Pushed them away. Tried to stand. Collapsed. Solo and Roman left through the crowd. No music. No celebration. Just silence trailing behind them. In those final moments, WWE didn't just reset a storyline. It reminded everyone watching what made Roman Reigns dangerous from the beginning: he's not a king. He's a warlord. And when he comes back, it's never for peace. As EMTs huddled around Jacob Fatu, fans kept watching, not in anticipation, but in disbelief. The silence wasn't for dramatic effect. It was because something sacred had just been shattered. The betrayal at Money in the Bank had felt like a power grab. The attack tonight felt like a message from the gods. It wasn't just brutal. It was ceremonial. Roman Reigns hadn't returned to take back a title. He'd returned to make an example. And Jacob Fatu, for all his strength, speed, and pedigree, never saw it coming. Backstage chaos erupted immediately. WWE cameras cut to live reactions. Some superstars stood frozen near monitors, mouths agape. Others left their dressing rooms, rushing to find out what was going on. One source later said, it was like watching a crime scene play out in slow motion. Producers yelled into headsets. Security scrambled. Corey Graves on commentary kept asking, what does this mean for the bloodline? What does this mean for WrestleMania? No one had answers. Even Michael Cole was silent, whispering, I can't believe what we're watching. Meanwhile, Jacob Fatu was helped backstage. He refused the stretcher again. Two officials propped him up, but he couldn't put weight on one leg. He clutched his ribs with his left arm, blood staining his jawline. A camera tried to get a word, but Fatu swatted it away. He didn't talk. He didn't look back. And yet, you could feel it in his posture, he wasn't done. He'd just been destroyed in front of millions. Not by one man, but by two cousins he once believed were family. The betrayal had flipped. Now he had something even more dangerous than rage. Purpose. Roman and Solo exited through the crowd like assassins. No theme music. No spotlight. Just a slow march through the stunned audience. Fans backed away instinctively, not out of fear of physical harm, but because the moment felt untouchable. This wasn't just a storyline anymore. This was mythology in real time. One fan held a sign that read, "The bloodline is God mode again." Another simply wrote, "Reigns. War." When the show went off the air, WWE.com immediately uploaded the footage with the headline, "Roman Reigns returns, bloodline reclaimed?" But even that was too soft. Because this wasn't a return. This was a purge. Over the next 24 hours, social media exploded. Clips of the spear through the steel steps went viral, racking up 20 million views on Twitter and TikTok combined. Wrestling influencers and analysts scrambled to make sense of the hierarchy. Had Roman and Solo formed a new alliance? Was this now a two-man bloodline? Where was Heyman in all this? Would Jey return? Was Fatu still in the picture? Roman didn't respond. No statement. No tweet. No press release. Because the work was already done. Paul Heyman, once the mouthpiece of the entire empire, was found sitting alone backstage after the show. WWE Digital tried to get a word. All he said was, "I didn't know. I didn't see it coming." Then he stood up and walked away. The following Monday, WWE released a single, chilling poster, a blood-red silhouette of Roman and Solo standing over a cracked tribal symbol. The caption? Order restored. But if you look deeper, nothing about this was order. This wasn't a clean return. It wasn't reconciliation. It was consolidation. Roman had watched his family fracture. And rather than mend it, he chose to burn the pieces that didn't fit. Fatu was one of them. Maybe Jey is next. Maybe even Heyman. For now, Roman and Solo are united. But that unity is built on fear. Solo gave up control the moment he stepped aside and let Roman attack. He became an enforcer again, more brutal than ever, but still secondary. And Roman? He didn't offer guidance or forgiveness. He offered war. The scariest part? He looked more at peace than he ever did as champion. There were no "acknowledge me" chants. No thrones. No tribal council. Just violence. Just punishment. And that's how Roman Reigns always works best, when he's not trying to lead, but to dominate. This is the new bloodline. There's no hierarchy. No family meetings. No strategy. Just Roman and Solo. And whoever's left standing after the smoke clears. As for Jacob Fatu? He's off TV for now. But only physically. Mentally, emotionally, narratively, he's everywhere. In every promo. Every backstage segment. Every bloodied step Solo takes. His name will echo until he returns. And when he does, it won't be for redemption. It'll be for revenge. Because once you've survived a Roman Reigns purge, you don't come back to talk. You come back to finish it. The arena was empty, but the energy lingered. The steel steps were dented. The ringside mat still showed the faint outline of Jacob Fatu's blood. Solo Sikoa's hoodie lay torn beside the announce table. The camera rigs were being wheeled away, but the memory of what happened wouldn't fade for days, maybe weeks. Possibly ever. Roman Reigns had returned. Not to lead. Not to talk. But to reset everything. The brutal ambush of Jacob Fatu flipped the Bloodline saga on its head. What was once a fractured empire on life support suddenly felt alive again, but in a new, darker, more dangerous form. And the WWE Universe was reeling. By the next morning, the entire company had pivoted. Roman's return dominated headlines across WWE.com, ESPN, Bleacher Report, Ringside News, and beyond. Even non-wrestling media outlets like Complex and TMZ picked up the story, not for the return itself, but for the violence of it. They ran with headlines like, Roman Reigns unleashes hell on Jacob Fatu in shocking SmackDown return, the Bloodline isn't dead, it's evolved, Fatu left broken, WWE left speechless, the attack wasn't just a wrestling moment. It was a cultural one. Fans flooded Reddit threads, Discord servers, and Twitter/X hashtags. Theories. Reactions. Panic. Many fans had predicted a Roman return, some had even hoped for it, but no one expected him to side so cleanly with Solo Sikoa. And absolutely no one thought he'd target Fatu with such finality. What made the betrayal hit harder was the context. Fatu wasn't just another heel. He was family. A cousin. A war-ready wildcard many fans assumed Roman might use to rebuild his empire. Instead, Roman treated him like an infection to be removed. And now? Everyone was asking the same questions. What happens next? Backstage, the ripple effects were immediate. Several top superstars reportedly asked to move away from Bloodline-related storylines. Not out of fear, but because they felt the story was becoming too real. Too intense. Too emotionally heavy. One veteran was quoted backstage saying, "It's not a match anymore. It's a war movie." Even production felt the shift. Producers began planning show rundowns around Bloodline segments. They weren't side stories anymore. They were the story. The drama had reached Shakespearean levels, and every character involved now felt like a ticking time bomb. Paul Heyman, perhaps the most emotionally wrecked person in the wake of Roman's return, went completely dark. No appearances. No promos. No voiceovers. For the first time since 2020, the Wiseman had nothing to say. When reached by WWE Digital for a backstage interview, all he offered was a phrase, "History isn't repeating itself. It's rewriting itself." Then he walked off, visibly shaking. Sources later confirmed that Heyman had not been told of Roman's return ahead of time. In fact, he had reportedly been intentionally kept in the dark, by Roman himself. That's the most chilling part. Roman returned and didn't tell Heyman. Which means, in his eyes, the Bloodline advisor may no longer be needed. Or worse, no longer trusted. Meanwhile, Solo Sikoa looked reborn. The weeks leading up to Roman's return had been rocky. Solo had lost control. Fatu had turned on him. He had begun lashing out at referees and staff. But in the aftermath of the attack? He was calm. Focused. Dangerous. Sources say Solo didn't speak much backstage after the show. He simply walked in, cleaned his gear, and left without a word. But that silence didn't feel like defeat. It felt like loyalty reforged in blood. And then there's Jacob Fatu. The man who weeks ago declared, "I am the line now." Now nowhere to be seen. Medical updates released on WWE.com claimed severe bruising, possible fractured ribs, and internal contusions. Unofficially, he'll be off-screen for at least 2 weeks. Some say longer. But make no mistake, Jacob Fatu is not written out. He's biding time. Watching. Waiting. And with every day he's gone, anticipation builds. Because if his return is anything like his debut, it won't be scheduled. It'll be felt before it's seen. Across the WWE Universe, reactions varied wildly. In New York, fans filled the streets outside Madison Square Garden hours after the show aired, chanting "Bloodline. Bloodline," like it was 2021 all over again. In Los Angeles, wrestling-themed bars hosted emergency watch parties the next day just to re-watch Roman spear through the steps. Wrestling schools across the country used the footage in promo classes, saying, "This is how you tell a story without a word." In the Middle East, Roman trended for 2 days straight on local Twitter feeds. In Samoa? Silence. No response from the Inoue family. No interviews. No tweets. Just respect. Or fear. And then came the merch. Within 12 hours of SmackDown going off the air, WWE dropped a new shirt, black cotton. White letters. Red underline. Text, "Nobody betrays this family." It sold out in under 36 minutes. Internally, WWE Creative began rewriting WrestleMania storylines. Roman was no longer optional. He was essential. And now, WrestleMania 41 had a looming question at its core. Who will stand against this new version of the Bloodline? Fatu? Jey? Cody again? Seth? Or someone we don't see coming? Commentators on the next Raw summed it up best. This isn't the Bloodline story continuing. It's the sequel none of us expected. It's Godfather 2 with steel steps. And they weren't wrong. Because in the ashes of betrayal, Roman Reigns didn't rebuild. He retaliated. He reminded the world that family doesn't come first. Power does. And now everyone else in WWE, friend or enemy, is waiting. For the next order. For the next move. For the next victim.